Happy Monday to you, friends and family. Tyler Fulghum with the homegirl, Erin Dolan, getting our Super Bowl week of coverage on Bet kick-started in the only way we can. We are going to be joined by our buddy Dalen Cuff. The Puck Daddy, Greg Wyshynski, will drop by as well. So it's not just pigskin here with Erin and I, but of course we will dive into that throughout the show Wednesday, Friday as well before we see Super Bowl 56 kickoff from SoFi. A reminder, you may be already there, but in case you aren't watching us on this specific platform, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting is how you can get not only bets, but all kinds of our content from the team here at Daily Wager, the team at ESPN. If we're talking gambling, we're talking wagering, that is where you'll find it no matter what pretty face is giving you the info. So always be checking that out for best bets each and every evening. But, Erin, it is now time to get things kick-started on a Monday, like we are wont to do with a little reaction or no action. And I see take your pick up there on the screen. We're going to do that in a bit. That's just a little tease of what is to come, Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow. But we're starting with reaction or no action today before we get out some toys and play around. So, Cincinnati will trail by more than 3 points at halftime Sunday. Erin, reaction or no action to that statement?
No action here. Now, last week, the Rams, when they were playing the 49ers, they were -3 in that first half. They did not cover. They had every possible chance at the end of that second quarter to cover that first half spread for me, so I do not trust this team in terms of that. I also think the Bengals, we know they're a third quarter team, a second half type team, but you are playing this Super Bowl. You cannot let Matthew Stafford jump out to a huge lead like he did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs did come back towards the end of that game in the second half. But nonetheless, the Bengals cannot let the Rams get that far of a lead. So I do think this is going to be a close, tight-knit game. And come halftime, I don't think they're going to be down more than 3 points.
All right, disagreement here. I'm going to say reaction. Not just because I am a Rams fan, but we've seen a trend from this Bengals team a little bit that they kind of start slow. It's the second half when they really start to make their move. Of course, the AFC Championship, a much more recent example of that and a very intense example of that where they were trailing by 21 points. But the Rams have been a team that has started quickly but also kind of faded in the second half. Think of all those turnovers against the Bucs. Now, it was a fourth quarter comeback against the 49ers, but based on what we've seen from these teams, I do think the Rams will build a lead of some sort. Now, that doesn't mean the Bengals won't come back. I fully expect them to keep this game close and make it a game. But I do think the Bengals will be trailing at half. I would like to have, that 2.5 and have the field goal be it. But maybe a 4-point lead, a 6-point lead, or a 7-point lead for the LA Rams at half. I'm going to say reaction to our first statement here on Monday. All right, Cooper Kupp, pretty good wide receiver. Led the league in receptions,
to say the least,
receiving yards this season. He's not bad. So if I throw this bet at you, reaction or no action, Erin, Cooper Kupp will be the first LA player with a reception on Sunday. Plus 170 is the price for that. Reaction or no action?
I'm going to go reaction for this one. Now, you have a Bengals squad that's continued to struggle against slot receivers. They're allowing a 70% completion rate. On top of that, we know Cooper Kupp. You just basically gave an intro with all the top nuggets about him. He's an unbelievable wide receiver. On top of that, the only person that I could be a little bit concerned about is if they do double team him and they have to throw it to OBJ for that first reception. But I do think considering the value on this plus 170, you should take Cooper Kupp to have the first reception there. And also the Bengals have really, again, like I mentioned, struggled against these types of wide receivers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some deep balls to him during this game as well.
I don't know if it was the time off this weekend, Erin, but we are butting heads. We are at odds yet again here. I am no action on Cooper Kupp. And you said what I think is going to happen. I think OBJ is the guy who is going to make that first reception. We've seen Sean McVay try and get OBJ involved early, get his mojo going. You know Kupp is going to be there. You know Kupp is going to get the 10, 12, 13, 14 targets. He's Cooper freaking Kupp. But OBJ, I think, has been a focal point for Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford to get him involved early and get him into the flow of the game, because that certainly is going to benefit the Rams offense over the long term if OBJ is engaged. And you said, too, that it's more likely the Cincinnati defense pays extra attention to Cooper Kupp because he's Cooper freaking Kupp. So OBJ might have some of those backside one-on-ones that he has been winning a lot in this postseason. So I'm going to say no action. I do think it's OBJ who gets that first catch for the Rams. So Let's see if we can disagree 3 times today here, sis. I don't know if we've done that on a bet show yet on a reaction or no action. But
I know, usually we're in alignment.
Usually we're right in sync with one another. But if I said both teams score 3 touchdowns on Sunday, again, plus 170 the value on that bet. Erin, reaction or no action?
No action on this one. I mean, I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, and they don't put up many touchdowns. It's really Evan McPherson who has put up the majority of the points. He scored 40 points in the last 3 games, 4 of those being extra points. I mean, if anything, they should be thanking Evan McPherson so much for keeping them in the postseason and having them advance to the Super Bowl. I just don't see this being a very high-scoring game. There's a reason why that total dropped significantly as soon as it opened up. Now, I know a lot of the money in the tickets are starting to come in on the over because the public money and public bettors just like to start betting the over and the dog come Super Bowl week. And we're going to see, tickets and more money flow in majority 3 days before the Super Bowl. But I personally do think this is going to be an unders type of game. So for me, I'm no action on this one.
Well. This is awkward. I like the over in this game a little bit, even though it's come down from 50 to 48.5. It is a high total. I think we're going to see both teams get in the end zone at least 3 times in this matchup. The way I think it happens is the Rams kind of like we did with the first prompt here, build a little bit of a lead in the first half. Into the third quarter, they score 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Then it's the Bengals in that third and fourth quarter who try and come back and make it a game and get into the end zone a couple of times in the second half. So disagreement here yet again. Maybe we settle this arm wrestling. No, I don't want to do that. I've seen your IG. You're in the gym. I'm a fat slob, so you'll probably beat my butt in that regard. We'll figure out a way to settle this. But opposite sides of all 3 prompts for reaction and no action today.
I know, that's surprising.
I don't know what that means, but you know what? I don't feel good about it because I know Erin's been riding a little bit of a heater the last couple of weeks with her bet. So let's see if maybe we can find some common ground with a segment that we teased you with to start the show. It is time to take your pick, Erin Dolan, and I get to get out the tablet here and move your name from where you want to go here. And it's pretty simple. We're going to go through players and take your pick. You get one or the other here. We'll see if we disagree or agree on this one. If I said to you to pick between Burrow and Stafford for longest reception going over 38.5 yards, which QB you picking?
I'm going with Joe Burrow over 38.5 completions. Now, also just want to mention these graphics, unbelievable, loving these. But Joe Burrow, we're going 1, he has a better completion percentage over Matthew Stafford. Number 2, he has the longest completion of at least 44 yards in 5 of the last 6 games, over 40 yards in 7 of the last 8 games, which is super impressive. On top of that, he has thrown a longest pass of 82 yards so far in this postseason. And just in general, you have Cincinnati. I mean, they have an explosive offense. They need to make these plays in order to stay in the game against the LA Rams. I do think he will have a longer completion pass.
We're back, baby. I'm with you. As much as I want to see Matthew Stafford light up the air, I am going to say that my pick, it's more likely that Burrow has a completion over 38.5 yards. Both offenses are explosive, obviously, but I think the Bengals have a little bit more of that high-end explosion. They had 12 touchdowns of 50-plus yards this season. You ripped through Joe Burrow in this run at the end of the season in December into January for the playoffs. 4 of his last 5 games, he's had a reception over 44 yards, a completion over 40-plus yards. So I do think, especially because I think Burrow's going to throw the football more than Matthew Stafford, there's going to be more opportunity for one of those passes to be a big play down the field. So we're back in our good graces together here, sis. We're both on Joe Burrow
Finally.
going over 38.5 yards for his longest completion. Now let's turn our attention to the running backs in this game. Joe Mixon on the Bengals side, Cam Akers on the Rams side. Very, very close in their rushing yardage prop. Akers is actually a yard higher at 63.5. Mixon at 62.5. Take your pick. Which RB more likely to go over his prop?
I'm going with Cam Akers here. And what was interesting is this morning I was reading an article that a lot of sharp bettors are really going for the running backs in this game instead of going for some of the wide receivers, which was interesting. But I'm going with Cam Akers because Mixon, yes, he had a great week last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had 88 yards, but that was the only time he's hit near that this postseason. He's only hit over this number once in the last 8 games that you had just mentioned. And you have Cam Akers. I just think, if anything, they could be kind of running the ball with him. The Bengals defense is not great. And let's just say they do somehow shut down Cooper Kupp, which is very hard to do, and OBJ or something, and they want to have to start running the ball. They are going to be handing it off to Cam Akers. So I do like him over his rushing yards more than Joe Mixon.
I mean, it feels so good to be back again, babe, because I'm with you. I am also on Cam Akers, more likely to go over his total. Again, just the game script I'm developing here. I think the Bengals' best and most efficient way to attack the Rams is with Joe Burrow dropping back and throwing the football. Not that Mixon can't have a great game. I just think it's more likely to come with him catching passes out of the backfield than taking handoffs and running at a Rams defense that hasn't allowed a running back to rush for more than 51 yards in any game this postseason. As a matter of fact, running backs, or teams, sorry, not running backs, teams are averaging just 54 rushing yards per game against this Rams front. Meanwhile, Cam Akers has come back from the Achilles, and in the first two playoff games, he got 17 and 24 carries. Now, only got 13 against the Niners, but I do think, especially if the Bengals decide to play the Rams defensively the way they did Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs by dropping 8 guys into coverage, Sean McVay would be wise to turn and hand the rock to Cam Akers and Sony Michel when he's in there and run at this Bengals defense, because that is not a strength of that unit. They are much better defending the pass, not much better, but they're better defending the pass, I think, than they are against the run. So I think Akers will get a heavy workload. I think Mixon, if he does get touches, they're more likely to come and more likely to be productive in the passing game. So with, like you, I'm on the incredible story that is Cam Akers being more likely to go over his rushing prop. All right, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we started 0-for-3. All kinds of disagreements in reaction or no action. Maybe we can go 3-for-3 and take your pick, though. We're 2-for-2 so far. Our final prompt, what will happen first on Super Bowl Sunday? A sack, minus 105, or a touchdown, minus 125, Erin?
Well, something that's interesting for our viewers here, Tyler and I don't know what we're picking really here, so we'll see what this comes down to. But I do think that when you're talking about these, I am going to go with a sack here. But when you talk about any prop that has the word first in it, it really comes down to that coin flip, and that scares me a lot. So I'm thinking sack. If the Bengals get the coin flip, they want to, take the ball, or they had the ball first. What's interesting is that, the Bengals offensive line, absolutely terrible. Aaron Darnold and those guys, they have not sacked anybody probably for 2 weeks. They're going to absolutely go for him before a touchdown is scored in that first quarter. And a lot of bettors like to talk about that first quarter nerves and things that go on. It's a big game. There's a lot of media around this. It's a first-time experience for some of these guys. So the jitters, the nerves, and all of that may not, result in a touchdown in that first quarter. So I'm definitely going to go with a sack.
Hot diggity dog, girl. We are back because I'm with you. Sack is the move here. I also like the price. You're getting a better 3-for-3. I mean, we started a little rough, but again, it's how you finish, not how you start. And I also like the pricing of the sack. The sack is minus 105. The TD is minus 125. We have seen in recent history offenses start slow. Both defensive lines can get after the quarterback. It's not just the Rams with Aaron Donald and Von Miller. Guys like Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson on the Cincinnati side, very good pass rushers as well. So I like you say a sack happens first because of the price and because both defensive lines are very, very strong in this matchup. And then if the Bengals do have the rock first, man, we know their offensive line has been an issue. Played all right against the Chiefs, but they allowed 9 sacks against Tennessee, and that is a rough recipe to bring against Aaron Donald and Von Miller. So there we go. All right, now we're cooking with gas on this Monday edition of Bet. It started a little slow, Aaron, but we got back on track. Let's get off the gridiron, though, and move to college hoops because we got a big one in the Big 12 tonight.
Yes.
Texas and Kansas. Before we dive in, Erin Dolan, let's hear from our good friend, Dalen Cuff.
Thanks, Tyler. This is an interesting game. It's really KU or pass in my mind, and at times you just take the better team. And I think Kansas is exactly that. The Texas team can really defend. We know that. They have played better in the last couple weeks. Offensively, they're still really, it could be a huge labor for them to put the ball in the basket. They're struggling to do that. Defensively, they will be elite. This won't be exactly a wild atmosphere. I think Texas can put out some fans. And yes, KU, whenever you come to town, it's the biggest show in town in the Big 12. But I don't think the KU team is going to be scared of that environment. It's a veteran group that is an elite offensive team. They are the best in the Big 12, one of the best in the country, and they can play in different ways, whether it's an up-tempo game and play at pace, you grind them down in the half court, they become more and more efficient there as well. They've won games, too, on the road when they weren't supposed to. They were down at Kansas State, should have lost that game. They've done it at home. Texas Tech, double overtime, should have lost that game. The institutional knowledge, I think, prevails here, and I'll lay the 1.5 with the Jayhawks.
All right, Dalen's picking a side there, Edie. He likes the visiting Jayhawks, laying just the 1.5. Our turn now to dive in to this Big 12 matchup, which you will see on ESPN 9 Eastern tip. Kansas, Texas, total of 132. You picking a side, you attacking the total. Aaron, what's your favorite bet?
I'm looking at the total and I'm going under. Now this has been bet down a lot. It opened at 137. I saw it as low as 131.5. It's now at 132. I still like the under here because you have a Kansas squad that has one of the best offenses. The Longhorns have one of the best defenses. They're allowing opponents just 55 points. On top of that, some of the trends to support that, you have, you have the unders 4-2 in the Jayhawks last 6 games and 7-1 the Longhorns last 9 contests at home. So what I kind of see happening here is the Longhorns can't go shot for shot with this team, so they're going to have to slow things down, really play good defense, and not allow them to put up a ton of points. Now, we know the Jayhawks can absolutely do that. We just saw them beat the Baylor Bears, which was absolutely incredible, the reigning champs. But at the same time, I just, again, think this will be an under despite that line continuing to be bet down.
We are officially NBA Jam style on fire, Erin. I, like you, am attacking that total, and I, like you, am playing the under 132. It is the fact that Texas is at home and will try and, I think, do exactly what you said, slow the pace down. You want to limit possessions when you go up against a team that is, as Dalen said, offensively gifted as the Kansas Jayhawks. Limiting those possessions limits their opportunity to create space with that offensive firepower. And Texas is made under Chris Beard to play slow and play tight, suffocating defense. They're 345th in the NCAA in terms of pace. One of the slowest paced teams in the NBA or in the NCAA. They're also one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. 4th in defensive rating. That is Chris Beard's calling card. Since Erin, the calendar flipped to 2022, there has only been one game that the Texas Longhorns have played at home that went over this total, and that was the first game of the 2022 calendar year against West Virginia. In that time, they've played 6 games at home on their home floor, and the average number of points in those games is just a paltry 116. So even though Kansas has that firepower, I think Texas's defense, their style, and their pace will keep this game under no matter who wins. So we're back, baby. We're on fire. Let's see if we can keep it going. I know the only way to make this presentation even hotter is to bring in the Faja, our daddy of pucks, and hop on the ice, of course. So let's welcome in Greg Wyshynski on this Monday edition of Bet and turn to the NHL. Puck Daddy, we only have 2 games tonight in the NHL, but it doesn't mean they aren't good. One matchup in particular features 2 of the favorites to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup this season. That would be Carolina and Toronto. Toronto's a slight favorite here on the money line as the home team. This total creeped up a little bit to 6.5. You can watch it on the ESPN family of networks, ESPN Plus 7 Eastern puck drop. How are you looking to attack this game from a wagering perspective, Puck Daddy? All right, I'm not sure.
The half a goal meant all the difference to me, man. I was thinking over on this game, but I'm rolling under the 6.5 on the total. Slight favorite on that one. Freddie Anderson in goal for the Carolina Hurricanes. I like that. First meeting between the two, total was 5. So the Hurricanes, I think, have been under in 3 straight games. I'm down with it. I'll take the under in this one, under 6.5.
And Greg, the Bengals just started the season 125-1 to make the Super Bowl. The NHL just had their All-Star break. Are there any teams with NHL odds over 50-1 that could potentially win the Stanley Cup this year?
Yeah, there aren't many that I would give a chance to. But if you're going to pick one, I'd like the Los Angeles Kings. They're at 50-1. I'm looking for teams that are actually going to make the playoffs, and I like where the Kings are positioned in the Pacific Division to finish in the top 3. They are right now 8th in expected goals percentage at 5-on-5. They're 7th in scoring chance rate at 5-on-5. Respectable goaltending. And I also like the fact they've got some veteran guys in Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, and especially Jonathan Quick, who is having a resurgent season, that have all won before, are going to be super hungry to win again, and anything can happen. Please recall back in 2019, the St. Louis Blues were plus 250 in January to win the Cup, and of course, we all know what happened after that.
I remember it well. My St. Louis Blues, one of the craziest out-of-nowhere Stanley Cup winner, one of the craziest out-of-nowhere championship winners in North American sports. Really cool to see that. Always cool to have our guy, the Puck Daddy, joining us here on Bet. The delay was a little long, But Greg Wyshynski always worth the wait when he is dropping knowledge and joining us here on Bet Good Stuff Puck Daddy. Let's get off the ice and get to the association here as we shut this down on Monday, Aaron. We got 4 games we want to dive into before we get out of here. Let's start with this matchup in Charlotte. Eastern Conference tilt between the Raptors and the Hornets. Hornets come in losing 4 in a row. The Raptors have won 5 in a row. That's why they're a slight home favorite, a total of 224 for this early tip. Aaron, do you have a play that you like more than another in this matchup?
So I've been watching this line for the last, basically, I guess, 12 hours since it was posted. I think this is absolutely a trap game. Now, Charlotte has given me no reason to back them in any shape, way, or form. They're 0-5 against the spread their last 5 home games. They're also 1-4 against the spread in their last 5. But this Toronto Raptors team, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They're great on offense. They're great on defense. This line should be about -3, -3.5 in my eyes. This got as high as Raptors -2.5. This bet right back down. The Charlotte Hornets, for me, again, I just think this line is the biggest trap game as a spread. I would stay away from it completely. Tyler, I know you disagree with me because I'm pretty sure this might be your best bet. But as someone who tracks lines, I genuinely think this is a trap game and you should stay away.
Completely understand that. I do. Like the Raptors, I'll lay the 1.5. It is a little fishy given the recent performance we've seen from both of these teams, but I do think it is a situational spot that the Raptors can take advantage of. It was my best bet on Daily Wager. I mentioned they've won 5 in a row, covering all 5, and that has not been against weak competition. 2 of those wins against Miami, 1 of those wins against the Chicago Bulls, and the other 2 wins against the Atlanta Hawks, who have gotten much better. So those 5 wins have come against pretty stiff Eastern Conference competition. Charlotte is not, in my eyes, as good as those teams, even though they have an all-star like LaMelo Ball, a guy like Miles Bridges, who might win Most Improved Player in the NBA this season. I just think I'm going to ride this spot for the Raptors, who are on a heater. They also, Aaron, haven't played since Friday. And that's important for this team because Nick Nurse has the tightest rotation in the NBA. Guys like Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, they're playing 38, 40-plus minutes a night. So the fact that they got the entire weekend off, Saturday and Sunday, to rest, get their legs back under them before they travel to Charlotte, I think they keep their mojo going. They're finally kind of fully healthy. You go back to January 25th, Aaron, these 2 teams played in Toronto. The Raptors won that game by 12, but they didn't have Fred VanVleet. They didn't have Scotty Barnes. They didn't have Kim Birch in that matchup and still won. Now, this game's on the road, so that is different. But I just think Toronto is, at this moment in time, the better team. They've been playing better. I'll ride this hot streak, but I agree with you. Kind of fishy that they're only laying 1.5, albeit on the road against the Charlotte Hornets. All right, let's move to the Suns Bulls. 2 of the best teams in the NBA. The Suns, the best record in the NBA. The Bulls at the top of the Eastern Conference standings, but they are dealing with some injuries. You see the road ATS mark for Phoenix this season. They've been some of the best road warriors in the NBA, but they're laying a big number. You got to lay 8 if you like the Suns side, a total of 227.5. Aaron, what do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I don't really like laying the 8 here. I was wondering if that was going to come down a little bit throughout the day, but I'm going to look at a player prop. I'm going DeAndre Ayton to have a double-double. You can find it at -115. Usually with DeAndre Ayton to have a double-double, if this was a month or 2 ago, it'd be -250, -230, or -215. You'd see it around that area, so it's not something you can typically bet. I like that this is -115 because, again, you can bet into this and it's better value than what you typically get. He had a double-double last game against the Wizards. He's played in 3 games since he was injured. He only had a double-double in 1 of those, but Monty Williams said the best way for DeAndre Ayton to get back into shape, the way he was before he was injured, is to play him as many minutes as possible. So this isn't going to be a situation where they're going to sit DeAndre Ayton and kind of rest him. They want him to get back in shape, and they're going to play him more than potentially typically they do. So I do like him to have a double-double against, a Bull squad also that has a depleted backcourt right now. They are on a back-to-back, might have some tired legs. So again, Ayton to have a double-double tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned those maybe tired legs for the Bulls. This will be their 7th contest in the last 10 days, and I believe their 2nd or 3rd back-to-back set because they did play yesterday as well. I, like you, love the Suns. Just don't want to lay the 8 because the Suns play tomorrow. They're on the front end of a back-to-back, and they go to Philadelphia to play your 76ers. And we know the Philadelphia 76ers are in an absolute load right now because Joel Embiid is playing like an absolute monster, maybe the league's MVP. So I'm going to borrow from the Erin Dolan playbook. I was going to play the first quarter. Suns -2.5 in the first quarter. Give me a 12 minutes of hoops. Get in, get out. I don't have to wait the full 48 minutes. So I'm going to lay that 2.5 in the first quarter as I said, maybe the Chicago Bulls are a little tired. They're dealing with injury issues. Their rotation's been tightened. We'll see if Zach LaVine's game-time decision is available with his injuries that he's dealing with right now. A back is what has him as a questionable mark, as a game-time decision. Phoenix, as I said, I'm worried about the back door being open because they have to go to Philadelphia tomorrow. Maybe they kind of take the pedal off the gas or limit some minutes in the second half. And I just think they're the better team. They've done well in the first quarter covering. I think that trend can continue in this matchup. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton do not let me down, laying the 2.5 in the first quarter against the Bulls on the road. Third game, big mismatch, but that's why we have the spread, the great equalizer. The Warriors, one of the best in the biz, on the road in OKC, Aaron, laying 12.5. They're riding an 8-game win streak. They've covered 5 times in those 8 tilts. The Thunder, we know, are bad when it comes to their real-life win-loss record, but they have like the second or third best ATS record in the NBA. We often are giving too much to their opponent. So is 12.5 too much for the Warriors to lay? Is the total 210 something that intrigues you? Tell me what you like with this matchup, ED.
So I do like to back OKC in this spot. That is if Lou Dort plays. Right now he's questionable. He's not available in any of the player props. I've been waiting all day for it. But at the same time, this line should really be like a 14.5, 15.5, 16.5. I mean, they should blow this team out of the water. And they covered 12.5 the last time these two teams met. But at the same time, OKC in the last 10 games, they're ranked second in the league in defensive rating despite having some of their key players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being out. And on top of that, they're 15-8-2 against the spread when playing at home. They're even better when playing at home. I think the Warriors could potentially come into this game. They've played so great. They've covered. I'm not saying the Warriors aren't going to win. I'm not saying that whatsoever. There just might be a chance for a backdoor cover in that third quarter, fourth quarter if they start sitting some of their starters. And that is a big number. And we know towards the end of the games, sometimes OKC can kind of just sneak in that ATS and cover for us because they're always getting those big numbers. And eventually, you know what, with the Warriors, they're not going to cover every single game. So I do like OKC to cover the big number here.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I'm going to stay away from the side, though, even though, OKC has been a very profitable team all year long when you bet them over the course of the 48 minutes. I'm going to attack the total, specifically isolating, there's our favorite word, Sista, the OKC side, under 97.5 points. You mentioned how good their defense has been. This is a low total for a game with the Warriors, especially now that Klay is back and playing a lot of minutes. But you mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the focal point, the engine of that Thunder offense, also being out. I think the Warriors, even without Draymond Green, still the top defensive team in the NBA when it comes to defensive rating. A huge mismatch against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, even when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is healthy, 30th, dead last in offensive rating. That rating plummets even more when Gilgeous-Alexander is off the floor, like will be the case tonight. So I don't love the fact that the Warriors will be a pace-up spot for the Thunder. They'll get more possessions. I just don't think they'll have the horses to get to 100 points. So it's a low team total, but I'm going to go under 97.5 points for the Oklahoma City Thunder because of this matchup and the fact that their main guy offensively, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, is out. All right, final game to look at. The New York Knickerbockers in Salt Lake City visiting the Jazz. Jazz laying 8. You see, though, yikes, Jazz 1-12 ATS their last 13 home games. That is terrible.
Crazy.
Aaron. You got a 218.5 total here for this 9 Eastern tip. Rudy Gobert still out. So what are you going to do with this Jazz next game?
Yeah, the Jazz have just been, terrible in January because of injury. 4-12 record, just terrible. But I'm actually going to go with the player prop. We're going to go Donovan Mitchell over 24.5 points. He's hit this in 4 of the last 6 games. Now, the last time these two teams met, he only had 9 points, but Rudy Gobert was in that game. He just put up 27 on the Brooklyn Nets, and he's going against a Knicks squad that I don't trust. I also don't trust the Jazz either. But the Knicks have been terrible. They lost 8 of their last 10 games. I think Donovan Mitchell, if anybody's going to be scoring for the Jazz, it is going to be him. He should be able to put up some numbers. He's playing at home, and they need to, the Jazz need to figure it out. So I'm going to go with him over his points.
Yeah, this kind of correlates with your player prop. I'd like to see Donovan score 35, 40 points because that'll help the Jazz team total get over 113.5. That's going to be my play. With no Rudy Gobert, the Jazz defense is hurt. That means they'll have to likely score more points to make sure that they win this game comfortably against a Knicks team that is struggling. And boy, Julius Randle doesn't seem to like anyone that's associated with the Knicks. I don't know if you saw him in LA slapping the video coordinator's laptop away, but I'm going to go over team total, and hopefully Donovan Mitchell's a big part of that. She is Erin Dolan. I'm Tyler Fulghum. A big thanks to Dalen Cuff and the Puck Daddy for joining us. We'll see you Wednesday.